Welcome back to Berkley Behind the Bait. I'm joined once again from Berkley, Dan Spengler and Ronnie McCoy, and we're going to talk about kind of almost every bass angler's favorite topic, which is frog fishing, which is the brand new Berkley Swamp Lord that came out. But just even in saying that, Dan, when I start to think about it, I'm like, that's got to be a challenging task. I mean, we're going to come out with a frog. Well, there's a lot of great frogs in the world. How did this quest start for you guys?
Uh, to tell you the truth, it started like 5 years ago. And the reason I say that is we've been working on the frog the last probably 2.5 years with Bobby Lane. Everybody knows Bobby Lane, frog master. He's done a lot of damage through the years fishing frogs. And we actually started the project like when I mentioned 5 years ago. We actually were going to work and launch this product earlier. And we probably put 2 years into the frog, and then we had to put it on, we put it on the shelf. And the reason we did, there was a lot of different reasons, but at the time the market was super saturated. Everybody was coming out with their frogs, and we just kind of hesitated and we kind of held back. So I thought that was kind of an interesting part of the frog you never hear is like sometimes these companies like ourselves or other companies, we're working on a lot of stuff, and sometimes things don't see the light of day until actually much later than the original inception point. So we had Bobby in here, and we worked on the frog for 2 years. We paused, and then we brought it back. And I think the timing's right because now I feel like there wasn't like six different companies launching frogs. It's been a few years since that, and ours landed at ICAST, and it got really good reception, and I think it got the attention it deserved because it's a really good frog. So, but it started then, and I'll pick it up kind of where it started the last couple years. We brought Bobby in, and here it is. I want to show you all this. This was cool, but this is actually a 3D printed frog. So when Bobby came in here, we worked on the frog design. We drew it up, and it doesn't look like where it started. I can tell you that there were some funny jokes about the frog and the shape, and Bobby's designing of the frog and certain features. But we moved the frog past those points, and the frog it looks really, really good now. Um, but we drew it up in CAD and we printed it out because we have the ability to do that with like all of our hard baits. We 3D print our bait. So we did it with the frog, and I got the popping frog too, you can see. So I just thought these are really cool. Like no one's probably ever seen anything like this before. But this gave us the ability to understand the shape of the frog. Did we want it to be this tall? Look at the body width. Our frog, when you look at it, is actually a little bit fatter than say the traditional frog for a reason. And we did that so it actually has a lot more of a flat profile. So when it's sitting there like that, it actually is so good at walking. It doesn't want to roll over or anything like that. It's one of the easiest walk-in frogs on the market today. I'm sure Ronnie can speak to that when I give him a second to talk about all the fish he's caught on it. But we did two versions basically. We did a standard walking frog, and then we did the popping frog. And we spent a lot of time with the cup detail and the cup design of that frog. You can see right there. Colors were really important. Actually, I'll show you this one. We did some cool crackle back features. I don't know if you can really see it there in the video. It's kind of dark there we go. But spent a lot of time with these colors, working with a custom painter, getting these frogs to look really natural. We actually have 12 colors that go across both models, popping and walking frogs. Anywhere from shads to frog. There's a spring frog. This is kind of cool. Bobby wanted to do a blue crab frog for fishing up in the Northeast, where he said we're, tidal water. So this tidal water colored frog is kind of this blue crackleback frog with some orange in it. So I think we're the only ones that really do this kind of unique frog color. So just tried some things, black, Maverick color,
Always good.
bone, the two staple colors, chartreuse. We did a lot of things. MF bluegill's a really good one. I'll show you that one right here. Nice little bluegill pattern, a lot of attention to detail, crackle back. So we spent a lot of time on the Swamp Lord, but really some of the key features are the Fusion 19 hook. we wanted a really large gap hook and a super soft frog. So it deflated really easy when the fish bit it. And then
Yeah.
you can see those hooks right there. They're mean and they have the right angle. So it's the ultimate for hookup. So it's the easiest walking frog, easiest popping frog to walk in the market today was our goals with the action. And then the Fusion 19 hook, it's super strong. This thing's not going to bend out on you, super sharp. And those are really some of the key design features we put in the bait. So once we got the frog the right shape here, we started prototyping it in, the hollow plastic and all that. And it took a long, long time to get this right. I'd say we probably had to get the hooks right. So, they didn't have any issues with bending, with heat treatment, all that stuff that we do with hooks and Fusion 19 to make them super sharp, super strong. It took like, I think we got to 9 rounds of revision on the frog. And Ronnie had tested, I want to say, version 6 through the end. So I'll let him speak to the fishing part, but we field tested it a lot here, Bobby and I and the team, and then we gave it to these other guys like Ronnie. And Ronnie, why don't you tell us a little bit how you fished the frog in your experience?
Yeah, so when I first got my hands on this frog, I was super excited to start with. And, as I look at that frog, I just so happen to have about 3 of them laying on the deck here. And I don't know if you can see them or not, but let me say you guys did an outstanding design on, especially the colors I like. Fusion 19 hooks, no doubt. Super soft body. You don't have to make any adjustment to this frog. The only thing I do to this frog when I get it out the pack is trim a little bit of the skirt. That's it. And so I'm going to talk about the popping frog. I've caught fish on this frog from Santee Cooper to Lake Hartwell. I just got back from Hartwell, got a 2-day regional super tournament coming up this weekend. I'll be leaving tonight. And, for what I found up there, they will absolutely eat this frog. The hooks, again, you don't have to bend them. You don't have to adjust them. The hookup ratio is really good. I carried it to Santee Cooper here about 3 weeks ago and caught 18, had 19 bites. And the only reason I missed number 19 is because I could not catch up with him when he hit it. And he hit it that aggressive. So, they will absolutely hammer jaw this boy right here. This popping frog at ICAST, when I was there, one of the guys asked about it, about the action of it. And one thing I've noticed about this frog compared to other frogs, and I'll say this, when you are popping it, it's like a cereal bowl, if you can picture that in front of it. It's like a half a cereal bowl. It makes that really good kabloop. And then
pop.
this thing, yeah. It's like, hey, here's a bowl of Captain Crunch. Come on and eat it, and whether they are hungry or mad at it, I don't know. They will absolutely kill this frog. So it's got that action to it when you're popping it like a pop-art. And then you can also have a more faster cadence and make that frog spit side to side, walk it. The buoyancy of these frogs are really good. The durability of these frogs are really good. And I really think Berkley nailed it with it. Whenever, the years that they spent designing it, colors are perfect. You see white all the time, but this bone color is one of my favorite, along with all the MF shad, MF brim, bluegill. That's good. So I'm gonna talk a little bit too about the walking frog.
While you get that walking frog, I'm going to say this. Previous to this frog, and for no reason really specifically, I was a traditional walking frog angler. I never, for whatever reason, I don't have a reason. I've tried them, but popping frogs just wasn't a thing that was strong in kind of my repertoire. I would always just, if I'm going to throw a popping bait, I'll throw a bullet pop or something like that. And I would throw a traditional, this popping frog, if you ask me, because not just the ease of bloop, like an actual topwater pop that you want, which they seem to all kind of fall short of. If you kind of have pop it, man, it walks incredibly well too. So this popping frog kind of made me a believer in popping frogs. But you've got some info on the traditional walking frog.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, because it's the best of both worlds of that popping frog. It's that bloop, bloop, or then, okay, then you're going to walk it. So, and you can put this bait where you can't put that bullet pop, so So let's talk about, the walking frog. And to me, this frog right here, when they designed it to sit flat in the water, it sits flat in the water. What I like about that is it's not just a walking frog, it's more like a glide frog. Meaning, if my cast is a little bit off, say at a cypress tree, I can take it and do a short twitch, then a hard twitch, and that frog will walk right over and nose up to that cypress tree. And you better hold on. So, I mean, it's more like a glide frog too, Dave and Dan. And again, colors, hooks, soft, the buoyancy how it sits in the water. And again, I've caught fish on this frog from Santee Cooper all the way to the upstate up in Lake Hartwell. So I keep a frog tied on 12 months out of the year. And do I catch them on at 12 months? No, but I always have one in just because you never know when you're going to run across the spot where you want to throw it. But this Berkley frog now I think it's going to be one of the leading frogs in the industry. I know it's worked for me. It's a bait that I've got a ton of confidence in that's been out just a very, very short time that I've had my hands on it. And again, it's going to be, and let me back up. I even caught fish on this frog up on Oneida Lake when we were up there doing the Fenwick Rod Media event. So this is the one I caught them on up on Oneida. And again, it'll work anywhere from I think anywhere in the country. And it's going to be a game changer.
You said you don't do very much to it out of the pack, and that is not the norm with frogs. I mean, in the past, people grab a frog and they say I have a hard time. Well, you got to bend the hook out a little bit. I think a lot of that has to do with the softness. But one thing you did mention is trimming the skirts. Where are you at with that? Because it seems like you could get 10 anglers and you will have 9 different arguments on whether you trim the skirt, whether you trim one leg shorter than the other. Where are you at with that?
Well, typically what I do, I'll take that frog, and whenever I want that skirt to be right about at the nose of that frog when I trim it. And I trim it on both sides. And the reason I do that is because I like it don't affect your walking action. But when you trim that skirt, it gives you a little less resistance in the water because, again, I may not make an accurate cast. I may want to walk that frog over left, or I may want to walk him over right to get him up to a tree. And it just helps get a little more distance whenever you do that soft pop, hard pop. And that frog will walk right on over left or right. So that's part of my reasoning for trimming skirts. And there's no science behind it, but it's just always kind of, for me, pick that frog out the pack, pull that skirt down, trim that right there level with his nose, tie him on, and go to work.
Well, Dan, it sounds like kind of you nailed your job on this one. Because the frog's not an easy thing to make and keep people happy. I mean, the whole time you were talking about colors and everything, I'm like, yeah, we've all seen colors. This bait has to hook up. It clearly hooks up. My question is, who was the genius that came up with the idea that I've never seen in fishing before? Because every angler that has ever bought any frog made by any company there is out there picks up that bait and looks at it in the tackle shop, and they think of what they're going to accomplish together, but they want to touch the frog. And you can actually touch Berkley's frog because somebody thought about putting a hole in the package so you can actually see how soft it actually is.
It's right there. I just took it out of the package, or else I could have shown you. But I think that stemmed back to we had a couple projects in the past. We looked at this Power Pop project that we had, and it had the same window, and you could feel the bait in there in the pack, and that was a really good idea, and we wanted to continue it on with this. Obviously, it's a super soft frog. We want people to feel the frog, so it's kind of a neat way to engage the consumer on the shelf and feel it. And there's a couple other things I want to mention too, is like we talk about the Fusion 19 hook and how good it was for hookups and how the frog collapses because it's soft. But one thing that I think that allowed us to design the frog body the way we did and make it a little wider is when we have Fusion 19, we have the ability to design our own hooks, and we designed our own hooks. So we didn't design the frog around the hook like everybody else has to, because there's frog hooks out there and you design your frog around the hook. We designed the hook with the frog, with what we wanted to accomplish in mind. So we weren't stuck. We could do whatever we want because we have our own, Fusion 19 hook line. So I thought that was really cool. And then, if you just run your fingers across the frog right here, these hooks sit perfectly even with the frog, like they're touching. So, you're not going to miss fish, but they don't stick out and catch a bunch of weeds. A lot of other competitors, the hooks actually lie off the frog and you'll get a lot of weeds. This thing's meant to be fished in the slop and heavy cover. And when you have that, those hooks sticking off the body, that's a problem. But we spent a lot of time getting that perfect balance fit. And the whole reason we were able to do that is because we designed the hook and the frog together as one thing rather than design something around a hook. So I thought that, was a really interesting thing. And then the last thing I'll mention is the weight. So the weight and the position of the weight and how heavy the frog is, these are amazingly good for casting. So you'll cast these things, and not only for casting distance, but accuracy. So if you're casting this thing and trying to throw it under docks, it can feel pretty good. You're going to have an accurate cast because of the weight system in the frog.
Yep. It skips really well. It does. It skips under docks really well. It skips under, low hanging limbs. And to your point too about the softness of that frog in the pack, have you ever picked up a real frog and squeezed him, Mercer?
I'm sorry to admit, but yes, I have.
Does it feel just like this one?
You're right.
You can feel his backbone. When you squeeze a real frog, you can feel his backbone. That's exactly how these Berkley frogs feel.
Well, they seem to look right and feel right to the fish. And if our job was to help people figure out how this bait was designed and help people how to figure out how to fish it a little better, guys, I think we did our job this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
Yeah. Kudos to the Berkley group for giving me a good opportunity to fish this thing, because I got a feeling it's going to be definitely it's going to make some money.
Well, thanks for field testing it. And it's guys like you that help us understand we're making the product right. And like, I fish all the time, but I've got to say, I wasn't much of a frog guy coming in. I'm a crankbait guy. I'm a hard bait guy. Just my nature. So, it's good to have some great fishermen fishing the product and make sure we have them right.
Well, Dan builds them, Ronnie fishes them, and I just talk about them. This has been Berkley Behind the Bait.